Hey YouTubers, this is Ishtiaq with you once again. I am a Philadelphia-based event and landscape photographer. Welcome to another episode of my photography blog. And here with me is my little baby boy, Adi. He is, how old are you, Baba, now? You're about 5 months and a week. And, well, about 5.5 months? No, about 6 months ago, it was winter, it was snowing, and right about here, we took a photo of my lovely wife who is doing the videography now. So Adi was in his mama's tummy at the time, so we took a photo of my wife and my mom right around here, and it was a wonderful photo. We loved the photo, but the thing is that my wife loved it a lot, and my mom had this crazy, wonderful, adorable look that to me I put a thought bubbles there saying that what has my son done to you, kind of thing. But in any case, we're going to look at that photo today, and we're going to see how we can make a person disappear. Of course, my mom, not my wife and son. But the point is that it would have been a wonderful photo just by my wife, just if it were just my wife and the baby over there. And I promised that I will take that photo, but it was heavy snow and I forgot. So let's see what we can do in post-processing to fix it. So we're gonna go back to a photo close to 6 months ago, and this, I was on the other side of the camera, my wife was on this side of the camera, and this guy was still not born yet, but about to. Uh-oh. Alrighty, let's head on to the processing table and see what we can do. Oh, so we are in Photoshop, and this is the photo I was talking about. I wish I'd gone back and taken this photo again, because it would have been a wonderful maternity photo. But hey, as much as I love my mom, let's try and see how we can remove her from this photo. And to do that, what I'm going to do is let's select the lasso tool, or you can use any other tool that you want for selection. And what we want to do, of course, you need to make this an unlocked layer, and it's best to create a copy of that, so I'm pressing Command J. So now what we do is we select her. The idea is that we're going to define the area that we want removed, and then we're going to be using the content aware fill within that area. And anytime you need to remove any large body, it can be anything, it can be a human body, it can be anything, one of the go-to things is the content aware, and it really works fantastically well. So you go to edit, fill, and select content aware if it's not there already. Let's press OK and see what we get. Usually it takes a few passes. The first pass doesn't always provide the best result, but we want something that's a good starting point. So that's what we have, and honestly it's not too bad actually. I think we can live with it. So let's deselect, and just for the sake of it, let's run this tool a couple more times, and in this time let's localize it just a little bit. So we've selected that part. Doing the shortcut, the Shift F5. Let's see what we get. This of course may or may not work, but it's actually worked okay. I think we can live with this, what we got here. So let's deselect that. Let's see if we can get something here, this area that's sort of a mismatch. So again, content aware fill, just press OK. Well, we got some pattern. Of course, the fence in my backyard looks a little better than that, but we can live with it. Definitely, we can definitely live with that. So, or let's see, let's try it again. No harm in trying. It may surprise us. Oh no, it did not. Let's just deselect this, and just one last time I'll just make another selection and try to apply the fill again. Did I press OK? There you go. Well, the spacing is still off, but we can live with it the way it is. This is not the point. What I want to show is it will be wrong in many places and you will have trouble. So the point is to learn how to fix that. So for that, let's choose the clone stamp tool by pressing S. And the way it works, if you don't know already, you can press down Alt and define an area from where you will be basically copying a pattern and then pasting that pattern somewhere else. So let's start with the background. Let's select that one. Let's get a somewhat bigger brush. I don't want something with too much of an opacity, at least to start with, because this will be just faint shapes in the background. I'm selecting again. So the trick is to go back and forth and choose different areas, because if you don't do that, this area and this area will be true copies of each other, and that's really not gonna fly. So let's do that. And of course, anytime you're using any so two mistakes. Anytime you're using any kind of brush, always be sure to have a somewhat of a low opacity, and if you're using the clone stamp tool, always be mindful of where you are, because I defined this as my guiding point, and then I went too far, so I've put some part of the arm, and if I keep on going, this is what I'm gonna have. So I'm gonna move back and back a little bit, so that there's, and a little bit more back. Alright, so there's not much there. Gone back to fix those errors is basically all I did. So let's just paint again, so that we have some definition here. So here what we want is a separation of between the accumulated snow and the snow in the background. So for that, let's make the brush a little smaller. So let's define this area there with an edge, and that edge is what we want to have here, and there you go. So that's what we're doing. So, and then we're going to come back here again, because if we continued, we would have brought in this straight edge that's at the end of the photo, and we don't want that. Let's do that. Let's go up just a little bit as well, and again, let's not come too far. So as I'm painting to the right, keep an eye on the left as well. You'll notice that I'm trying to keep a safe distance between the guiding point and the arm, because I'm only trying to copy the snow here. So that's it. Now we use that same technique for this side as well, where it's not exactly very well well done. So let's pick an edge. Always pick an edge. It helps to have something like that, so that helps you see. And here just I'm eyeballing it to make sure that I have as good an alignment as I can make. As I do it, let's just keep on painting. Of course, I'll go back. I want to make sure that my opacity and my flow are all very high, so I want a hard brush, and the reason I want that is now I want a small brush. How small do I want it? And I want a hard brush. Oops, sorry, there I go. So let's go back so that we don't, not that far back. There you go. So that's how far I've done. Now let's actually remove that. Now let's define a point here, and let's see. Alright, so we have that, and we're painting. Keep an eye to the left, not just to the right, because we're trying to make sure that we don't come so far that we end up encroaching on the little the green bar that you see over there. So I think we can stop around here. That's sort of like a safe place. Something to look at the bottom. Of course, it's not accurate there, but let's see what else we can do to fix it. So the idea now is, let's get a somewhat softer brush now, and what we want to do is we want to take the zoom tool. We want to zoom into this area where we have the mismatch, and we want to try and fix it. Let's just go back to the stamp tool. Let's just define what we have, something just like before. Let's make somewhat of a smaller brush, and well, let's do that. So there's that, fixing one area. This does it somewhat better. So if you're doing it on your own with some time, of course you can do it. You should take the time to do it perfectly, but here I'm only just trying to do a job and show how this works. So I'm not gonna do, I'm not gonna go ahead and spend too much time. And as you can see, the guiding point is just to the left, and all I'm trying to do is to make sure that there's some matching here, and then I will just bail on it by going to one of these areas where there's the accumulated snow. So I can take that, and whenever I'm in trouble, sort of, I can make the brush just a little bit smaller. Again, let's define from here, and anytime there's a trouble spot, I can just come in here and paint part of that snow. So I'm leveraging information from some other part of the exact same photo just to take, oops, I went too far there, just to take some content and make it work. Of course, this is something just to spend time on, but you get the idea how you can do it. You can of course come here again and make a somewhat of a bigger brush and just paint over it. And as you go back and forth, oops, not wrong tool, as you go back and forth, then you have somewhat of an alignment at the top. It's going to work out okay. But you saw the tricks. You saw that we can use other tools if we want, and fix those little things. So when you're doing it seriously, and when you have the time to go back and fix those little patterns, because they do stand out in a photo if not done right. But then again, that's not the focus of this photo. The purpose was to show how to remove a person and then sort of make up for what little errors come after that. So that's where we are. Little things here and there you can always come and fix. Just get a little bit there and come in. So that's what we have, and instead of spending too much time, so this is, oops, sorry, this is where we were, this is what's now. Definitely the person here has been removed with somewhat success. So let's remove that layer that we had the copy, and now let's see what we can do with the rest of the photo. Since we are here, why not? So in this photo, and it's a snowy photo, and taken during the time of snow, and I believe I did have the exposure compensation set up. So the idea is that whenever you're photographing in snow, you need to have your exposure compensation in your DSLR at +1 or +2 depending on the condition, because otherwise the white snow will turn into gray, but even then it's not enough to light up the subject the way I liked. So let's come here and create create some adjustment layers, and let's just start with the curves, because that's what I do usually. And what you can do is you can just play around. The idea here is not to make the perfect adjustment at the first pass. You just play with it at different sides, so you know how the changes affect your photo if you do different things here. So you can always go back to the default. In this case, I am gonna work with the red. I know, because I need the red to pop. But let's see what happens if I bring the green down. Oh, I don't like that. But if I bring it up just a little bit, and let's do it here, I like it, but not here. I like it in the rest of the photo because we do have some green elements in the background, and the barn here, and the grill that you see here in the fence. So let's boost some of the green, but we don't want it applied to all of the photo because this really looks bad. So we come to image and we apply image, and there we have it. So this is somewhat better, of course. Oops, that's just the mask itself. And if we take the mask off, you see it's all green. Focus on the hair here. So it's all green, but as soon as the mask is enabled, it's a little bit more black, but we want it to be only applicable on the rest of the photo. So while the mask is selected, we press Command L or Control L in Windows, and you can play with it. Keep an eye on the mask here. You can play with it until the person is completely black, because when that's the case, it's not going to be applied on the person. It's only going to be applied in the on the surroundings, and that's what we have right now. So compared to before, this is what's there, and the person is almost just left alone. So that's the green taken care of. And the reason why I'm doing this in Photoshop, and I like doing these things in Photoshop as opposed to Lightroom, is that in Lightroom it's either very global, or you take a brush and you paint, and that's not very accurate. But here you have the option of working on a photo based on its luminosity and make selections that are actually much more accurate. So we have taken care of the green, but there's the red. So let's do that. Let's take a different one, and let's go for the color balance. And in this case, when you're in the color balance adjustment, you see that you have the midtones, the shadows, and the highlights. And again, just like before, just play around, just move it around and see what you get, because there's no harm in experimenting, and that's how you come up with a look that you like. And of course, what we just did with curves, we can come and do it here as well. But in this case, the highlights is the snow area, we don't want to touch it. And there is, in respect of this photo, the shadow area is where the person is, and there what we want to do is we want to boost the red. So let's just keep on boosting the red. Keep your eye on the sari, the dress that she's wearing, and right about here it's a good red pop. Let's take this preview off. So that was before, this is after. Don't look at the background, because we're gonna mask it again, as you may have figured. But as I applied this, well, let's see, the red looks even better if you just take it down just a little bit. The skin and all, we just wanted to make some adjustments. So that's something I like. But again, I don't like the way it turned the green into this muddy color. So again, image, apply image, just hit OK, and this is what we have. And just as before, we select the mask and we press Command L, and again we play with it. Keep an eye on the person, not the whole picture here. So you'll see here that the selection is such that she is not selected. So selection only applies to, let me show you, the selection only applies to the background mostly, and not her, not my wife Ishita. So what we want to do is we want to press Command I to invert, and this actually helps us, because now you'll see that the change has only affected the person, and the background is pretty much left the way it was. There are some changes, but negligible. We could always play with that again. In fact, let's do this. Let's select that, and we don't want it applied on the background at all. So we have the black color selected. Let's take a brush, definitely a bigger brush, and let's just paint black. And as we paint black, we see that the mask is not being applied in these areas. They are somewhat rescued from the horrible tint that you saw. So you can of course come and press Alt and the mask, so that you can see just the mask itself, and then do your painting. Make sure to not spill over to the person. So when you're nearby, you can reduce the opacity, and you can come and paint these out. Alright, so let's just reduce the opacity just a little bit. So yeah, don't spill over, and this is how you make sure that glow, that red glow that we had, because we boosted the reds, we make sure that it's not applied on the rest of the photo. So we're just masking that section out, and you should know this by now. Alright, so let's do that, and now let's go back to the photo and let's look at a before and after. So there you see it's very selective in the way it has been applied, and that's good. That's something that we have. Now the next thing we want to do is, of course, as I mentioned just a little while ago, this photo has been taken in the snow, and the prime target was to make sure that the snow is not blown out. So we do have mostly a lot of detail here, but we want to boost the exposure just a little bit. So let's see how much we can go. And we're focusing only on the person, not the background, not the overall thing, because we know that we can always bring it back. And this actually I like, because let's not go that far, or maybe we can. Let's go there. Let's see how much we can offset it. Just a little bit of an offset will look nice. So let's keep it that way. So definitely the before and the after, looking just at her, it looks nice, but again we need to mask it. So image, apply image, and then merge, and of course it's applied the opposite way of what we want, so we invert, Command I, and that's where we have the mask. And without this, there's that pop that she just received is from the mask. And of course you can play around. So this is where the first one was where we fixed the green, and then we fixed the red here, and then we made it pop with exposure boost over there, and that kind of does it. But there's just one last thing I want to do. You may or may not want to do it, but if you come to a color balance, just to show you that we have red to the right and cyan to the left, and that's because these are complementary colors. And when you want to have good balance in your photo, it helps if you create a contrast between these two. So just for the sake of that, of course I'm not going to be using that color balance layer, I just wanted to show you the colors. So just for that, let's see if we let's create a not solid color, let's create a layer of let's just create a solid color. And in this one, what we're going to try is to get a cyan like color, if not exactly cyan. Okay, that's a bit too much, but let's hit OK. Let's put this all the way at the top, and let's bring down its opacity a lot, because we don't want it everywhere. But as you do this, you see, of course, this is again a color cast that applies to the whole image. We can play around with the blending. You can have it as screen or lighten, and they are definitely different. It's better than the normal that it was. But again, come here, image, apply image, and we need to play with the levels of that again. So Command L, and let's see, we want to make sure that the person is not at all affected by it. So keep your eyes here. You'll see that she's mostly covered, mostly concealed by the black paint here. Again, to show you what this is. So this is what it is. If we want, we can actually take a brush. It's selected black, so we can take a brush and paint over these areas so that there's nothing that affects her. But I'm not going into all that detail right now, but you get the point, why we're doing it. So that's so here's the before, here's the after. So look at the background. What we did is we're just contrasting some cyanish tint against the red. And finally, let's hit Command Alt Shift E, so that we have a copy of whatever is visible. And the reason why we're doing it is that we want to create a vignette. Get the selection tool, select an area, come to select, modify feather, 300 pixel feather is fine, and delete. And there's that. So that section is deleted. And now change the blending of that one to multiply, and there you have your vignette. So let's take all of these and put them in a group. So those are our adjustments. And So that's the adjustment that we made. So this is where we started after removing the person. Of course, there's a little bit more fixing to do here. I just didn't want to spend too much time on those things. Some fixing to be done here, very minor things. There's a lot of white, there's a lot of snow, and a lot of fence patterns you can always copy from anywhere. But once you do that, this is the kind of photo that you can get eventually. I personally like it because it is, of course, like anything else, depending on my taste, and it suited me, and it's a photo that's very personal to me as well, because of the person inside and here and the person that was around. So I hope you found this episode useful. I know it's in the middle of summer, we're towards the end of August, but I still wanted to show you this photo from winter, because it is a good example of how to remove a person. And even though we're off season, it doesn't hurt to know how we can process some photos in snow. And especially what I hope will be useful to you is to just get into the habit of using the apply image on your masks, and then playing with the levels of the mask itself, because that really helps you separate different elements within a photo. So the foreground and the background, we have different lighting conditions, and we were able to process each of these separately. I hope you like this episode, and let's see you in another one. Have a wonderful time. Thank you.